Welcome to episode 38 of Book Nerd Paradise, where we get to know an author as they tell us one of their favorite quotes, read from their work, pose a trivia question, and give away a book or two. Hi, I'm LRW Lee, author of the Andy Smithson Epic Fantasy Adventure Series. And as I've been doing for the last 2 episodes, I'm going to continue reading a snippet from The Power of the Air's Passion, which is the prequel. So here we go. Picking up from last week, where we left off, Imogenia had just discovered all the different departments in the afterlife of Umaldi. Spirits behind her in line grew impatient. "Would you make up your mind?" one ghost moaned. Certain the choice she was about to make bore lasting consequences, Imogenia bristled. "Got somewhere you need to be?" A guest services official standing nearby floated over and said in a sing-songy voice, "Okay, miss, let me go through your choices with you. Spirits with no outstanding issues or problems head left to Peace Paradise. Spirits who are cold and seek to warm up or get a tan proceed right to Hades." Given the general nature of Hades she had learned growing up, she raised an eyebrow. "He can't be serious," she thought. Oblivious to Imogenia's balk, the spirit continued by rote. Spirits who have lost luggage while traveling to the terminal follow the signs to unclaimed baggage to find your belongings or file a report. Spirits seeking to file claims against the living follow the signs to the unfinished business office. Spirits wanting to earn a little extra money before retiring to Peace Paradise proceed straight ahead to the employment office. Spirits choosing to wait for relatives or other beings follow the signs to the waiting area. All others proceed to guest services to my left. Please make your choice or return to the end of the line. With so much to absorb, Imogenia asked the official to repeat the list, receiving more groans from those behind her. She listened carefully, but could not settle on one option. The ghostly cube grew more restless, making not-so-subtle comments about her mental capabilities, until she finally opted to return to the end of the line. "Good," one ghost exclaimed as she turned. "And we'll leave it for there this time." Today, we welcome YA steampunk, sci-fi, and fantasy author Leeland Artra as our guest. Leeland lives in Seattle, Washington, with his wife and idea-inspiring son. The first half of his life, he says, was quote-unquote wasted, as his mother said once, being an avid science fiction fantasy reader. It took him 20 years of thinking he should publish before getting serious in 2012. He's working to become a full-time author, but for now, reality dictates he works as a software engineer, which he refers to as being a code janitor. And that's for Expedia. So by day, he helps people take fabulous vacations, and at night, he helps people take even more fantastic trips of the imagination. He says helping people live happier lives appeals to the dagger in his soul, and the symmetry of his work appeals to the Navy-trained computer scientist in him. Please join me in welcoming Leeland Artra.
Hello, how you doing? Nice to meet you.
Very good to see you this morning, Leeland. So you'll be reading from your novel, Thread Slivers, which is book 1 in the Golden Threads trilogy. So that we can get a feel for the book, would you briefly give us a synopsis?
The Golden Threads trilogy is an epic high fantasy science fiction blend that takes place in a speculative future roughly about 20,000 years from today. It centers on the stories of 2 of the main characters, which are, one is Tika. She is a highly trained mercenary warrior who is trying to make a name for herself, and she's kind of willing to cut corners if it means fame. The other is Lebuin, who is a pansy dandy. And he spent his entire life couched in the Mages Guild, enjoying servants, and comes from a very rich family, and was looking forward to spending his life in his libraries, reading books, and that was about it. Unfortunately for Lebuin, he is promoted to the rank of journeyman, and in the Mages Guild, journeyman journey. So he's essentially has to leave the guild, go out into the real world, and of course he is scared stiff of this and is seeking to hire a bodyguard. Hence, where we come in with Tika. At least that's the initial impression. From there, the two of them kind of move out into the world. You know, Labuin's trying to find a way to get back into the guild by quickly getting promoted, and their worlds collide with a series of events that has just about everyone guessing to what goes on, leading to, of course, the dramatic conclusion where neither of them gets anything they want, but they end up being happy anyways.
Leeland, you've selected a favorite quote. If you would share that with us and tell us why it's a favorite of yours.
So my favorite quote is actually Isaac Newton's one of Isaac Newton's law, which is an object in motion tends to stay in motion, and an object at rest tends to stay at rest until acted upon by an outside force. I find that it is one of my more favorite quotes, simply because it's so unbelievably true. When I'm doing my writing and I'm putting things in, I'm just rocking. It's just, I just start going. But the hard part is actually getting started. The ever famous binging on Netflix, which, you know, once you sit down, you are no longer in motion, and Netflix is, and I can lose many hours to some of the better stuff, like Doctor Who and Firefly and all these other wonderful shows that are available.
You're also giving away a book. Actually, in your case, more than one book. So tell our listeners about that.
Thread Slivers, which is what I'll be reading from, is available in pocket paperback. Voila. It's also available as hardback, but you can get the ebook totally for free everywhere. Apple, Kobo, go to your favorite place. It's free. So the next book in the series is called Thread Strands, and the final book is called Thread Skein. And what I'll do is I'm going to give away two of your listeners. I'll give them both of these books as ebook.
Okay, cool. So what that means is basically Leeland is giving away 2 copies of the entire trilogy to 2 lucky winners. So to enter to win, make sure you leave a comment about this show in the comment section, and be sure that you include either a Twitter handle or Facebook, someplace that we can easily get a hold of you, because I find trying to contact people after just from YouTube information, many times people don't pay attention to their YouTube messages. So Leeland, you'll be reading from your novel, the first one, which is Thread Slivers, book 1 in the Golden Threads trilogy. Would you briefly set up the portion you'll be reading from and then go ahead and share with us?
So this is actually fairly early in the book. It's near the end of chapter 4, I believe. And Tika and Labuin have not yet met. Labuin's seen Tika. Tika hasn't seen Labuin. Labuin, as I said, is a dandy and a pansy. And he's just now moving out into the real world. And he's a little afraid. So prior to leaving the Mages Guild, he's strengthened his personal shields and found what he considers to be a fairly reasonable attack spell that he's prepped. Just so that he can be ready to take care of anything that comes at him. And the reason he's so truly afraid is because the previous evening, he actually witnessed somebody, what he thought was somebody trying to mug a girl, and the girl, instead of being mugged, killed her mugger. And that was actually Tika. So he's thinking that the world is way worse than he was expecting. So naturally, he's a little bit afraid. And he's been approached by a servant who is called Datani. Datani is trying to find his lost master, who is a master wizard who has disappeared. Labuin has agreed to help Datani find this master wizard because he's thinking that maybe he can, if he's helpful to this master wizard, maybe he can get some secrets or something, so he can, get his promotion and get back into the guild where it's going to be nice and safe. He's talking with the bartender / owner, whose name is Jean. Jean returned. "My lord, ya needn't worry. Your friend ain't dead in the room. There ain't no one under the room, and can I get you anything else?" Well, so much for an easy solution. Now what? He shook his head. "Thank you, no. When he comes back, can you tell him Journeyman Labuin would like to speak to him as soon as possible at the guild house?" "Oh, of course, my lord. Right after I tell him of all the other requests. Very popular, that one. I have to charge him more next time." Ooh, that's interesting. Popular? I take it there are a lot of people asking to see him. Jean paused, looking at him, before Labuin realized that nothing more was going to come without some coin. Sighing, he fished out another chira. That time, he left his finger on it. The man gave him a friendly smile and a wink. You might say that. Been 3 others asking after him. Beginning to get the feel for it, he left the coin where it was, but added another one. Smiling, he leaned in closer. Anyone I might know? No, my lord, not likely. One was a friend o' Duke, another was a recent regular, Sula by name, and the last was a knife. Stake me rep on it, I would. I know about the Duke, but what is a knife? I don't think I want to know. Maybe I can meet this Sula and we can help each other. Nodding, he added a third coin and asked, Sula is a new regular. Where might I find him? The innkeeper's hand came down, covering his hand and all 3 coins. It felt heavy, muscled, and coarse. My lord, be careful of that one. You can find her at the Temple of Delpha. That's all I can do for you. He turned, lifted his hand, and moved to some other customers. Looking down, he saw all 3 coins were gone. Now that's an interesting trick. Labuin stood and motioned for Titania to follow, and he walked out, trying to look confident. Once outside, he started walking towards the docks of the main market. This Sula sounds like she might be able to help. We can get to the Temple of Dalfa through the market. Titania followed. The market was busy as always, with buskers screaming their wares and merchants in booths vying for the attention of anyone who even glanced at their stalls. Temple Street was on the far side of the market, so they began maneuvering through the stalls in a general course for the Temple District. As he rounded a stall, Labuin caught sight of a beautifully dressed woman wearing a dusky brick-red cloak with a rust-colored hood and fur-trimmed collar. The woman was turning away from him, heading down another row. My lords, it can't be. That's the girl from the alley. She had already stepped out of sight with the sweetmeat in one hand, and Pax swung over her opposite shoulder. Come on, I think I know her. Stepping faster, he dodged around some of the other shoppers, not sure what he would do when he met her, but still he knew he wanted to talk to her. He moved so fast that Titania was left behind. She was a few feet down the aisle when he rounded the corner. Putting on his most winning smile, he rushed to get close enough to say hello. An explosion of light and sound hit him from behind, shoving him forward violently with his shield buckling under the force. He stumbled and tried to stay up. What the hell was that? Rebounding off the girl, knocking her forward as well, he managed to regain his footing. At the same time, he pushed what energy he could through his channels to recover the protective shield before the incantation faded entirely. The sudden rush of energies was more than needed, and the excess burnt as channels allowed what they could to flow through him. Turning around, he searched for the source of the force that had hit him. Everywhere, people were running and screaming except for one man, only a few pieces away. The man was rough-looking, wearing all black from neck to foot, and he held a rod pointed straight at Labuin. The man wore an angry expression, and his eyes burnt with hatred. Labuin found it hard to stand against. Lords and ladies, an assassin? Panic welled up inside him as lightning leapt from the rod, striking him again. His shield was not enough, and he felt like fire had exploded inside of him as the energy channels were forcibly disrupted. Worse, the energies he was trying to send through the destroyed incantation began pooling and burning. The shield was gone, and he was burning inside from the energies that no longer had a place to go, as well as from the tag end of the attack that had charred his arms and chest. The man in black's eyes went wide, and his face became white. But he recovered, his face flushing red. He rushed towards Labuin, his voice a husky and chilling "Deardo" was all Labuin heard as the man pulled and threw the knife in a single motion. It sunk into his unprotected chest. Look, so much for that character. Yeah,
really.
Why wait till the end?
Yeah, methinks something else might happen, perchance. Yes.
Pretty much, yeah.
Our guest author last week, YA fantasy author C.S. Lakin, posed a trivia question for us.
So my trivia question was, who wrote this quote, or who said this, rather? Someday you will be old enough to start reading fairy tales again. And I'm sure many of you knew the answer to that. I think They even used this in one of the Narnia movies, but it was C.S. Lewis that wrote this. And it's a quote that I'm very fond of because I write fairy tales.
Leland, you have a trivia question for us. What is that?
Name the science fiction novel from Rhyming Clue. So in verse, I will read you the clue, and you have to give me the correct name of the novel that it references. So here we go. The Martians' raid on Earth confirms their tripods are no match for germs. What's the novel?
Okay, cool. Ooh, this one's a challenge. I'm very much questioning what this one might be because I don't know. So if you're like me, make sure that you subscribe to this channel on YouTube so that you can tune in next episode and find out what the answer is. Are there any final thoughts you'd like to leave with our listeners?
Well, basically, read more science fiction and fantasy, and after you've done that, come and talk to me, because I just, I love geeking out with people. I enjoy talking about fantasy and sci-fi and just digging into the into the guts of some of these stories. And the more I get to do that, the more fun and joy I have in my life. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. That's great. Cool. Well, thank you for those words. Yes, it's always fun, but it's like having a book with a fandom, right? You always can discuss a little bit more of some of the pieces that you most enjoyed. Well, I hope you've enjoyed getting to know Leeland Artra just a little bit. I'm LRW Lee, author of the Andy Smithson Epic Fantasy Adventure series, and as always, book 1 and the prequel, the ebooks, are available on Barnes & Noble, Google Play, and Amazon. So feel free to avail yourself of that. Click the button to subscribe to the Book Nerd Paradise YouTube channel so you don't miss upcoming authors, giveaways, and answers to trivia questions. Thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this episode, and I look forward to seeing you again next Monday.